everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. It's the murder most foul, one that she wrote. This is something even Sonam's brother has now admitted. These pictures of Govind meeting Raja's mother, Uma Raghuvanshi, is actually something which has become the picture of the day. Both weeping till the story of two devastated families actually gets converted. Soon after, both Raja and Sonam's brothers sat next to each other to address the press conference. They are, after all, one family by marriage now. Govind said his sister Sonam has not confessed yet that she committed the crime. But considering the mounting evidence, considering that there is enough and more circumstantial evidence, he is sure that she has planned the killing of her husband. Govind has apologized to Raja's family. They have disowned the daughter they gave to the Raghuvanshi family just a month ago. Exactly a month ago, Sonam and Raja got married. The family that lost their son 20 days ago. Govind says, if Sonam is guilty, then she should be hanged. Let's listen in to what Govind said soon after meeting Raja's mother.
देखिए मैं कोई होता नहीं हूँ परिवार से माफी मांगने वाला, तो मैंने माफी तो मांग ली है, मगर इस परिवार ने एक बेटा खोया है और जो मैंने लड़की दी थी उस लड़की की जगह पे मैं इस परिवार का हिस्सा हूँ, उससे रिश्ता हमने तोड़ दिया है और इस परिवार का हिस्सा मैं हूँ और आज से सभी चीजें मैं करूँगा उसके खिलाफ, क्योंकि राजा मेरा बहुत प्रिय था।
अगर सोनम दोषी है तो आप उसके लिए क्या सजा चाहते हैं? अगर सोनम दोषी है,
सोनम दोषी है तो उसको है ना डायरेक्टली फांसी पे चढ़ा दिया जाए, क्योंकि जिस हिसाब से उसने ये जो प्रोग्राम जमाया है, जो भी करा है, देखिए आप लोगों से मुझे पता चल रहा है, कोई भी मेरे को खबर और कहीं से नहीं आ रही है, आप लोगों से पता चल रहा है क्या प्लानिंग करी, कैसे करी।
फोटो आया है
ये ऑफिस का फोटो है, ऑफिस के अंदर का, और इसके साथ में और भी बच्चे होंगे जी।
So before I go any further, here's the breakdown of Sonam's confession to the SIT team. And according to sources, Sonam confessed to the crime during the first few hours, in fact 4 hours to be specific of questioning. She has admitted to plotting Raja's murder and she has admitted to everything that she did in Meghalaya. The police believes her exact role will emerge soon. That's what the Meghalaya police is of the opinion. Meghalaya police has unraveled the murder mystery, collecting a trail of digital footprints, blood-stained clothes, and CCTV visuals. In fact, one of the blood-stained shirts belongs to one of the accused. His name is Akash. Blood traces have also been found on Sonam's raincoat. That's one of the evidences. And a kukri, which is allegedly a murder weapon, has been recovered as well. The fact that it wasn't a local variant that played a role in the unraveling of the knots of this murder. There were blood-stained clothes which by another accused, Anand, have also been recovered. Fingerprints of the accused on kukri, which was the murder weapon, and Raja's belongings have been lifted. Electronic evidence, mobile phones and digital devices have been collected, as well as there is an evidence of CCTV footage. Not from one location, but 42 locations. That's what the CCTV evidence has been collected from. Before I bring in the guests, my colleague Mukesh Singh Sengar in fact spoke to DIG East Range on this probe and the arrest. Let's listen in.
सर, क्या पांचों आरोपियों ने अपना जो क्राइम है वो कन्फेस कर लिया है?
हाँ, वो लोग ने कन्फेस किया कि हाँ वो लोग ये क्राइम में इन्वॉल्व थे, इतना तक वो लोग ने कन्फेस कर दिया।
जी सर, कैसे पूरे मर्डर को अंजाम दिया और फिर कैसे ये लोग वहाँ से निकले, ये इसके बारे में थोड़ा डिटेल से बताएं सर।
देखिए ये सब एग्जैक्टली कैसा हुआ वो तो हम लोग को इंटरोगेशन का बात ही पता चलेंगे, लेकिन हम लोग को इतना पता चला है कि वो 23 को जब वो लोग सोनम और राजा वो लोग नोंगरियात से वापस आ रहे थे, तब उस टाइम वो लोग ये 3 लोग भी नोंगरियात में उस रात को रुके हुए थे पास वाले होम स्टे में, और वो लोग का साथ फॉलो करके वो लोग के साथ दोस्ती करके मतलब राजा का साथ दोस्ती करके कुछ बातचीत करने लगा। और उसके बाद जब एक जगह पहुंचा है जिसका नाम है वे साउडाउ, वहाँ ये सोनम ने बताया कि वो कुछ फ़ोटो खींचना है और राजा को लेके गया, और उसके दौरान ये 3 जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर्स है उसने राजा को मारा है।
अच्छा सर, मारने के बाद फिर ये लोग कहाँ कैसे गए उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताएं सर।
देखिए, मारने के बाद ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर्स जो है ये तीनों 2 स्कूटी लेके आए थे, और ये सोनम दो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर एक स्कूटी में बैठे हुए थे, और सोनम और एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर वो दूसरी स्कूटी में बैठ के एक जगह है माकोटक बोल के, उस जगह तक वापस आए। माकोटक के बाद ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर्स अपने वापस चले गया, और सोनम अलग से वापस चला गया।
सर जब सोनम वहाँ पर मौजूद थी जहाँ पर ये पूरा क्राइम हुआ, तो सोनम ने सर उस दौरान क्या इनसे बातचीत की, और जब डेड बॉडी को फेंका गया तो क्या सोनम भी उस डेड बॉडी को फेंकने में इन्वॉल्व थी?
बिल्कुल, मतलब ये जैसे मैंने बताया, वो लोग वापस एक ही साथ वो लोग गया है, तो वो लोग के साथ इन्वॉल्व थे। और जो हम लोग का प्रिलिमिनरी इंटरोगेशन में अभी ये जो एक्यूज पर्सन्स ने बताया कि जब सोनम ने भी वो डेड बॉडी को फेंकने में मदद किया, लेकिन उस टाइम जब हम लोग उसको इन्वेस्टिगेशन शुरू किया तो हम लोग को 2 सूटकेस ये राजा और सोनम का सूटकेस मिला है, और वो सूटकेस में से एक मंगलसूत्र और एक रिंग मिला है। तो वहाँ से हम लोग को कुछ शक होने लगा कि शायद ये तो नया जिसका मैरिज अभी जस्ट रिसेंट हुआ है, और मंगलसूत्र तो सूटकेस में छोड़ के जाना नहीं चाहिए, तो उसी से हम लोग का शक शुरू हुआ है।
सर जब ये सोनम वहाँ से चली थी, कुल कितने इसके पास मोबाइल फ़ोन थे, कितने मोबाइल फ़ोन आपने रिकवर कर लिए हैं, इसके बारे में थोड़ा जानकारी दीजिए।
फैमिली मेम्बर्स ने हम लोग को बताया कि राजा के पास 2 मोबाइल फ़ोन्स थे और सोनम के पास 2 मोबाइल फ़ोन्स थे, तो टोटल 4 मोबाइल फ़ोन्स थे। और उस 4 मोबाइल फ़ोन के से मतलब एक ही मोबाइल फ़ोन अभी तक हम लोग को मिला है। देखिए, हम लोग के पास बहुत सारे इंपॉर्टेंट एविडेंस है, बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग एविडेंस है, लेकिन एट दिस स्टेज मैं आपको नहीं बता सकता हूँ कि कौन सा एविडेंस है, लेकिन मैं आपको इतना बता दूंगा कि हम लोग के पास काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग एविडेंस है।
सर प्राइमा फेसी सर क्या मोटिव है?
प्राइमा फेसी तो अभी जैसा हम लोग को लग रहा है कि ये इलिसिट रिलेशनशिप था, तो शायद उसी के लिए क्या होगा, लेकिन अगर कुछ और होगा तो उसको हम लोग का इंटरोगेशन के बाद ही हम लोग को पता चलेगा।
And we have an all-women panel joining us on the last word tonight. We have Adwaita Akala, Indian author and screenwriter. Kasturi is actor and social activist. Tara Deshpande is actor, writer. and Asna Pinai is a senior advocate. We also have Dr. Nisha Khanna, psychologist and marriage counselor. Adwaita, I'm going to begin with you. Here is Sonam, who has confessed to the murder as per the police. There are several unanswered questions, but the larger point being made here of the prism in which this entire murder is being seen. It is being seen from the prism of gender. How do you look at this narrative?
That's very unfortunate and it's very wrong. A crime like murder is a heinous crime. It is a crime. It is not a gender sensitive crime. Men are murdered. Women are murdered. Men murder women. Women are now murder men. This happens. You're talking about deviant minds. And when you go even into this case, you realize that this is someone who behaved in a very premeditated way. Now, how this relates to gender, I really don't know. We are just splitting hair here. Are we then going to say that the 4 people with her were all men? So there were more men and 1 woman. So this is then more a male crime than a female crime? It's ridiculous to get into this kind of argument. Bottom line is, it's a heinous crime. I want to police for standing their ground, for conducting a great investigation, and she needs to get the strictest punishment if she is found guilty. We're going purely by what is available in the public domain right now, and she needs to face the strictest punishment. That's it. No sympathy for her if being a woman or anything of that sort.
Yes, hang her if she is guilty is what her brother has said. But here is the brother who has disowned Sonam. While we look at the other side of the story, and we also always have to, because, in just about any crime story, and I've covered so many of them, Tara Deshpande, there is always the other side, and women are perhaps demonized as well. In this particular case, of course, there is evidence, there is also a confession which has happened by Sonam, but the manner in which it has played out so far, 2 families which were brought together? Did they not know what Sonam was up to? And also, did Sonam succumb to societal pressure of marriage?
Well, you're absolutely right that there are always two sides to the coin, and she deserves a correct defense if justice is to be properly served, which I'm sure she will get. The motivation still doesn't quite add up. I mean, here's a girl who apparently was very capable, was running her family's business, understood finance, had people working for her, and she comes under pressure from a family to marry. Now, what kind of pressure was it? What unusual pressure was it that forced her to marry someone she didn't want to? I think we need to delve into what kind of pressure was put on her. Was she threatened? Or did she then convey her desire not to marry this man to him? And despite that, was she forced to marry him? Sometimes if people are forced to have a relationship or are tied to someone that they do not wish to be with, that in India also is a crime. So I think understanding her psychology is extremely important, understanding her family's psychology, because while it does happen that people overnight become monsters, it is still unusual. I mean, you do see signs of sociopathic behavior, signs of a lack of empathy in a person who goes out and commits such a cold-blooded crime. I also think it's good to understand this alleged boyfriend here who mysteriously was in her life, then disappeared, then reappeared shortly before the marriage. And then he didn't want to kill this man, apparently, from what I've read. Now, if she's so in love with him and she's murdering her husband because she's in love with him, now she learns that this man whom she's going to commit the murder for doesn't want it committed. Did it make her think twice that, he's not supporting me, he doesn't love me? Why should I commit such a terrible crime? Did he have a life insurance policy on him? Was there a financial motive here? I think the motivation is still very unclear. They seem to have covered a lot of the chronology of the event, though there are still some gaps in it which don't really make sense, because this crime pretty much has been committed like on CCTV camera. It's a bumbling, mismanaged crime, which seems so strange for a young woman who was obviously quite capable and quite intelligent. So I still think that we need to really look into the motivations here and understand her psychology. What happened in the few days of that honeymoon? Did her husband say or do anything to her against her will? I mean, every aspect of this should be looked at before someone is given, in India, we rarely hand out capital punishments, but a life sentence.
Okay. Dr. Khanna, the question certainly that is being raised here, did she show those signs of a sociopath? Her mother speaks to her. In fact, Raja's mother also spoke to her while they were on the honeymoon. And it all seemed hunky-dory. It was business as usual. Happily married couple on a honeymoon. That's how it appeared. And then within hours, in fact, 6 a.m. is when she starts the trek. And by 1:30 is what the cops say Raja was murdered. So in matter of 7 hours, she has turned from a bride to an alleged killer.
So the basic thing is, if you talk about the patient who is suffering from any psychopathic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies, there are the very high chances they can fabricate the stories. They can plan and plot and go to the extreme sense of committing a crime. I have done in my clinic certain cases where people planned of such and things, maybe trying to commit suicide also, and maybe fabricated such a stories from going from one city to another city, keep traveling. After 10 or 15 or 20 days, they are harming themselves also and making a story that people kidnapped them. So when any person who is suffering from any sort of sociopathic trait, it may be antisocial personality disorders. Most of the houses we always observed when they are children, because there is a child trauma history, may be a very possibility in this particular case with the Sonam. Along with that, it will say that because when the person has maybe the delusional disorder and maybe the schizophrenia, in all these cases, pathological lying is very normal. Not only the pathological lying, the person has no remorse, no guilty, lack of empathy. Do not bother about what can happen wrong. Only thinking of positive and just thinking about that positive plan will work. Maybe not concerned about laws and any sort of negativity which can happen in future in this particular case, I am finding it out because I was reading the research papers and they were talking about the antisocial personality disorders where the stranger homicide is very much possible. This girl was married from few months and was disinterested in this guy. Another thing may be the
Married
feeling
for a
of
month.
guilty also marrying this particular person.
No.
All
To be
those
specific,
symptoms.
Nisha, today is 1 month since her marriage. And it's been 10 days
Yes.
since the crime was committed. So she was married for 20 days only.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is a stranger homicide. In the research also says when the stranger homicide is that the antisocial personality disorder may be one of the major reasons. As I'm saying it is the planning and plotting, fabricating stories, telling lies, hiding things. It happens because in clinic when we deal with certain cases of either marital dispute or normal counseling we deal with, certain times psychotic symptoms are there. Maybe psychosis symptoms are there. And the people plays this dual role or personality. Maybe they portray everything is normal, but another side they are doing planning and plotting in this particular case. So I'm saying it there is a very serious illness and the family is actually denying the fact that they doesn't know anything. The pressurization of the family members, I understand that, but somewhere you can't deny the psyche of the child which is now well grown. Because the children who even face even the trauma or whatever it is, now you are grown, but your inclination is toward the wrong pathway, where you are intentionally choosing to kill someone, which is itself is a crime.
Okay.
Maybe you are suffering from any psychiatric illness or maybe having depression symptoms. It may be you are into some emotional trap. But ultimately the decision was being taken by that because I think so the facts and figures are showing that the police
Let's move
person
on
was
and get
also
more
saying we
views
have the
of
factual
other panelists
things.
as well, Kasturi and Enis Napinai. But coming to you, Kasturi, your thoughts?
Okay, I heard the other three panelists talk, and I have to say, the angle that I want to explore, or rather regret at this point, is that everybody is pouncing on Sonam as a prototype of every woman now. You know, we already told you, we always knew the female is more deadlier than the male. That is the kind of comments we have to receive now as womankind on the whole, because of this lady who Nisha ji ne kaha ki ye shayad psychotic disorder hoga, but I feel this is a premeditated murder. There was time before the marriage to stop it, but she went through with it, and then she had 20 days. They were planning to go to Kashmir. She got a reprieve on that. They ended up going to Meghalaya. She had a lot of time to plan the murder. Yes, I cannot pass verdict on her while the investigation is going on, but it sounds quite like, pretty much everything was literally, as you said, done in front of a camera. She had time to hire killers. She had outside help. It looks like this is not a crime of passion. This is not the crime of a deranged mind. This is a premeditated murder. In 2003, many years ago, we had the case of Shubha and Girish, where Shubha killed her fiancé after the engagement. She was very much against it. There was a lot of family pressure. She ended up killing him with the help of the guy that she was seeing, she was dating at that time. Unfortunately, when these crimes, which happen very few and far in between when they happen, and the victim is a male, everybody says murder is not female or male. Yes. But usually we hear of dowry deaths. We hear of domestic violence. We hear of murders by husbands who hire contract killers on their wives in the USA. These are the kind of cases we hear. But now we get an upside down situation. Of course, all of mankind is going to pounce on women, and that's the unfortunate part. The stereotyping that, see, you guys are just as dangerous. You guys don't talk. Now, this is a step backward for all the progress we have made, for all the laws that have been made to protect women from undue death and harassment at the hands of their marital family. Now, this is the converse case, and that's unfortunate.
No, that's
but
a
one
fair
more
point that
point.
you've raised,
The one more point,
Kasturi,
Maria, is that
something that I delved on even yesterday, because it is being seen from the prism of gender, and while we look at this crime as a crime of passion and intimate partner violence, which we have seen several of such cases in recent times, and Enis Napinai, the point being made by Kasturi, it's going to make it even more difficult for women to get justice in courtrooms now. Of course, in this particular case, there is motive which has become increasingly clear. It could have been illicit relationship. It could have been multiple other things. But then the point, the way it has been all pieced together, do you think it's making it far more murkier?
The first thing I wanted to say is murder is gender neutral.
Yes.
In law and in fact. So we'll have to deal with the fact that it's only a perception when somebody talks about it as a gendered crime. But in law, that's not how it's going to be perceived. So I don't see the gender angle being an issue in court. Secondly, our discussion in terms of the facts of the case may be a little premature because in law, the confession of an accused to a police does not carry evidentiary value. It helps in furthering the investigation and that's it. It doesn't really carry evidentiary value, so it may be really premature for us to jump to conclusions based solely on the alleged confession right now. Finally, my word on this is, I think it has been rightly pointed out that it appears, assuming without admitting as we say, it appears to be a premeditated murder and not a crime of passion. You have a distinction in law between what is murder and culpable homicide.
Right.
And the distinction is drawn on the basis, one of the grounds rather, is of sudden provocation, which is what you call a crime of passion. Here, whatever the police have disclosed appears to indicate a clear premeditated murder, but the facts and circumstances still have to be pieced together independent of the confession by the police for them to sustain their prosecution against this accused. In terms of the girl's conduct, I heard all the other psychological inputs on this. With 34 years of practice in criminal law, one thing that I must add is every criminal case surprises you and shocks your conscience. You fail to understand that people can go to such extremes where extremes are not warranted. If a person is being forced into a marriage, they have an alternative to exit peacefully. It does not have to cause loss of life. But, when you read about many cases and the causes for it, it kind of like shocks you when you read the causation or the causality, which may be very, very banal sometimes. I remember this case that a former policeman had talked about where a young boy committed a murder for the price of a tarpaulin sheet over his head. That's it. So when you look at the reasoning that is being given, let's set aside the lady for a moment. Look at the other three persons also who are involved. Because there is a ticket for a free ride to Meghalaya, they went there. Because they are there, then they commit something. And then there is some so-called promise of money, and that money trail is something the police still have to track and find out. So when you look at that angle of why would somebody else also support, where is the money angle to it, you would realize that human life carries no value today. And therefore, one of the arguments that's given also is that death sentence really does not act as a deterrent.
Yes, human value doesn't add value, doesn't carry much weight. And Adwaita, also the relationships, the sanctity of relationships, that's also on question here.
But
Yes, I think, Maria, we have to be careful. We cannot look at this incident as something that is a sociological commentary on the state of relationships. I think that is something that we should refrain ourselves from doing because this is a heinous crime. It's a devastating crime, but doesn't necessarily point to society evolving in a certain way. And we mustn't rush to make those kind of judgments, just as we shouldn't rush to say women have become like this, which Kasturi pointed out. And I think that very deep-seated misogyny in society that still exists and is coming to the fore because of this. And I'm not saying this lightly, because for the simple reason, firstly, this is not a gendered crime. Murder is murder. whoever commits it. So there is no aspect of gender in this. But to frame women as being of this sort is misplaced, because there is angst, yes, when it comes to domestic violence laws. Men have angst about those. When it comes to divorce laws, there is angst. There have been cases that have been false. However, that does not mean that that angst is directed towards this case and we start calling all women of this nature, or we make these kind of misogynist statements. There's deep issues still in India where women are targeted unfairly and with regularity. I mean, the number of women who are raped in a day in this country, those figures are staggering. We've not moved away from that for there to be this kind of widespread belief that the world has changed and women have become diabolical. So I want to really raise that point. And also, it's very important that no woman is supporting her. I haven't heard anyone saying that. At most, there can be a feminist argument that says that, her lack of agency may have prompted her to take this, her lack of agency in choosing her own partner or familial pressure. But even then, even with that argument or that point, it does not justify what she's done.
Absolutely. Tara, 30 seconds to you, and then I'll give the last word to Kasturi.
I agree with, almost everything that all my other fellow panelists have said, that this should not be a crime that defines women in this country. The statistics globally, from every agency you'll find that far more crimes are committed against women by men than the opposite. But also something that Dr. Nisha said about this being a stranger crime. We value the sanctity of marriage and this sacred bond, but the truth was that she barely knew this man. He was, in effect, they had just got married. She didn't know him. It was not like she was going out with him for years and years. He was, in a sense, a kind of stranger to her. So she probably did not feel the same towards him as she would have felt towards someone, say, she knew for years when she was dating him. So I think that this, it was a sacred bond kind of thing is a bit of a weak argument. But I still do believe that we need to look more into her psychology and understand why this happened, what responsibility her own family has played, what kind of pressure was put on her to marry this man. At best, we need to find out why a capable woman like this who ran a business, who is an adult, didn't think that she could say no or, elope with whoever she wanted to. Was she influenced by these people? Maybe she decided to do it and then the others threatened her because she had promised them money and she couldn't back out of it. There are, these crimes can be very murky and very difficult. So I think that really more investigation is needed into her psychology and her family's psychology as well.
Okay. So what do you think is unanswered here, Ms. Napinai? 3 questions which are unanswered according to you.
3 questions. I would say there are quite a few, and we are not really in a position to address those right now. The first and foremost, of course, is the motive angle still seems to be something that the police will have to establish. Secondly, like I told you, we call it circumstantial evidence, which the police will have to collect based on the confession, because the confession by itself is not going to help them. And the third thing, which I've already mentioned too, which is the money trail is still to be addressed. And people's perception needs to change in terms of addressing a murder as a murder and not really get carried away with these kind of, rhetoric with respect to you trying to use this as a gender crime.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Advaita, Kasturi, Tara, Napinai, and Dr. Nisha on this edition of The Last Word. That's all from me.